There was a story today that General Motors is about to be producing almost no electric cars, and that's kind of true. I mean, the Chevy Bolt and the Bolt EUV have ceased being produced, and the reality is that General Motors is just not making many of their Ultium-based electric cars. Very, very few. However, whilst you may think, and whilst it would appear that GM is not taking electric cars very seriously, and yeah, I wouldn't argue with you there, well, it's quite a shock to see this news that General Motors has signed an $18.6 billion EV cathode deal, enough cathodes for more than 5 million EVs to be produced between now and 2030 in the United States. That's a huge, huge number. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the channel. I'm Sam Evans. You're watching the Electric Viking, and this is really good news. I mean, General Motors, $18.6 billion just for cathode materials between 2026 and 2030. So that's a 4-year period. General Motors are basically, they will have to make them. I mean, they sign a supply contract, they have to take delivery of these cathodes. And that means that between 2026 and 2030, General Motors basically have to build a minimum of 5 million electric cars. I mean, the truth is, it's not really a huge percentage of GM's production, considering GM annually produce more than 4 million vehicles worldwide per year, but it's still a pretty significant commitment towards EVs. I think a really good step in the right direction. So LG Chem have agreed to provide $18.6 billion of cathode materials to General Motors under a long-term supply deal the company's signed on Wednesday. Now, is this a good decision from General Motors? I'm not so sure, because I think they should be manufacturing lithium iron phosphate batteries. Clearly, these cathodes are not for LFP batteries, they're for GM's Ultium battery packs, which are just average. They're okay. Not exactly affordable, not exactly high tech or anything like that. But anyway, this agreement will see LG provide more than 500,000 tons of cathode materials to the US car maker from 2026. And these materials will be produced from LG's plant in Tennessee, and GM should be able to make around 5 million EVs using these cathodes. 5 million, that's massive. The cathode arrangement is part of a longer-term supply commitment between the two global corporations, with the Korean chemicals plant pledging to provide GM with 950,000 tons of cathodes through the end of the decade. So, actually, these numbers are not quite correct. Now, what I told you earlier in this video, you can actually say was understating it, because 950,000 tons of cathodes is actually enough for around 9.5 million electric cars. So that could mean possibly GM plans on building at least 9.5 million EVs between 2026 and 2030 just in the United States alone. I mean, these cathodes are for GM's battery plants in the United States. This is sort of hard to believe, but it's true. General Motors has signed this deal. This pact was signed during GM CEO Mary Barra's visit to Seoul this week, where it was reported that she's also meeting with Korean battery maker Samsung SDI Co. So basically, General Motors are playing Samsung and SK Innovations and LG Chem off against each other. And these are the three big South Korean battery companies, and GM is obviously trying to get the best deals it can make and basically sign these huge supply contracts in order to get a reduced price for their batteries and for the cathodes that go into those batteries. LG completed construction of its Tennessee plant in the United States in December. That facility has an annual production capacity, I say capacity because it's nowhere near producing this much, of around 60,000 tons, making it the largest plant of its kind in the United States. Most of the supplies it produces will be used by Ultium Battery Cells, the joint venture partnership between LG Chem and General Motors. So essentially, General Motors doesn't actually own this plant. It's a joint venture partnership between LG and GM. Anyway, either way, this news is very interesting. It does show you that GM, well, they have no choice here. They're going to take delivery of all these cathodes. What are they going to do with them? Just stockpile them? I guess they could stockpile them, but the truth is, it does look like GM wants to ramp up EV sales enormously, because 9.5 million, enough for 9.5 million cars between 2026 and 2030, that is an enormous percentage of GM's annual vehicle production. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.